Two. Hi, folks. You are watching and listening to a very special edition of Open Bar. I'm Mike Morales here in Southern California, and that young lady out there is
Mireille Olivo. I'm at Tequila on Instagram, and I'm based in Washington, D.C.
wow, DC.
Yeah.
I thought for a second there, the only other Hispanic, Latino, Latinx person that I know that was based in DC was the U.S. representative for the CRT. She had an office.
Yeah.
She had an office
Florina, yeah.
in DC. Yeah.
Well, I will say it's a big Hispanic community, just not very Mexican-based population, but lots of Central Americans.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. I was just talking about this with that marketing gentleman earlier this week that I interviewed, and I said, "There's nothing more fun for me as a Spanish-speaking, second generation Latino, that going into an international airport like Houston or like Miami, and you walk through the international section of it, and there's all these." Everybody's speaking Spanish, but they're all the different accents, and you just try to place it. Oh, that's Venezuela. That's Colombia. That's very few Mexicans. You're right. Mostly other Latin American countries are represented in these. But it's so much fun because you understand what they're saying, but the accent it's like traveling down south. I've lived in Texas for a while, and sometimes you get that Louisiana drawl is different from the Arkansas drawl. It's different from the people in South Carolina or Alabama, and so it's really kind of fun to try to place that. So it's good to know because I've never been to DC.
Well,
yeah.
If you ever want like a pupusa or something from El Salvador, this is your place.
No kidding. So,
yeah.
But you're Mexican, correct? You're
I'm Mexican. Yeah. No, I'm from El Paso, Texas. So yeah.
I lived in New Mexico for like 18 years. So El Paso's a favorite,
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, we're the reject of Texas where they're like, isn't that Mexico? But
it's a beautiful city, folks. El Paso is cool. It reminds me.
I love it.
The first time I drove through there, we went down to Cruces because I lived in Albuquerque, and then we cut across to El Paso just to go shopping. It's got everything. It's like even the freeway system is really neat. It reminds me more of LA because New Mexico itself, there's only two freeways. One that goes up and down, one that goes left and right. That's it, So it's really, it was as close as it was for me to be to a metropolitan area.
Right.
I think it's highly underrated. It's got its own cuisine. It
has its own flair for sure. It's definitely like a little big town too, where like the same families have lived there forever, and those families are huge. So it's like hundreds of thousands of people, but everyone. If I met someone from El Paso, the first thing they'd say is, "Oh, what high school did you go to? And who do I know that went there too?" So it's a little community town. I love it.
Yeah, it's very beloved by everybody who's ever lived there, politicians, journalists who are from there. I know a couple personally, and they love it, and funny for me because I grew up in Southern California, so if I ever went to Mexico, it was Tijuana, or Ensenada. But when you live in New Mexico or Texas, it's El Paso because right across the border is Ciudad Juarez.
Right.
And Juarez is really different than Tijuana. I discovered really different. It's not the same. I didn't know what to expect, but I was expecting a little bit of something familiar. It's not. It's again cosmopolitan. I mean, Juarez is a big city. So, but
no, it's true.
What? First of all, for folks who have not seen Miss Olivo, she is part of the TequiLadies on Instagram. Okay, there's this group of 3 gals who get together once a week. What time is your show on? And
so it's 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Okay. And every Tuesday we interview a bunch of different people that are in the tequila industry. Everyone from distillers to owners to people that are on the ground, like working the distilleries as well. Brand ambassadors. We just want to get all perspectives. And even like this last week, we had someone on from the CRT to talk about the certification process and their value in the industry as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you, first of all, how did you get For those of you who haven't seen the other two interviews, I've interviewed two of the three Tequiladies, okay? And each of them has their own handle. Your handle is La Tequilana, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can follow her on Instagram, and Marissa is like the tequila encyclopedia, and I've also interviewed Heidi, who calls herself the Tequila Mamacita. So they all have the tequila in common. Okay, you can follow me, but don't bother, because
I do.
yeah, well, we have Tequila Aficionado has its own Instagram. I have my own personal one, but it goes by a different name, and everybody keeps asking me what that's about, and I'll tell you off camera because nobody will get it.
Okay.
But anyway, how did you get involved in tequila? Like what brought you first of all to El Paso, to DC?
Right. So, well, I went to DC for college, for university, and then I just stayed and was working there. My parents, though, were the ones that moved to Guadalajara about 4.5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And they moved there for work, and it was supposed to be a short-term kind of thing. And while they were there, my parents were not drinkers ever, but they started learning a little bit more about tequila. And so when it was time for me to come down for Christmas, they were like, tequila's not that bad. And I was like, you guys drink? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing they did. And all of a sudden we started spending our weekends just going to distilleries and going to Tequila, the town, and really kind of immersing ourselves in the culture. But it wasn't until the pandemic that I really, I spent most of the pandemic in Guadalajara living there.
Oh, okay. I did not.
And so that's where I just really like sunk in, and that's when I got my diploma in tequila culture by the CRT. We went down to the labs and really got to learn, understand everything that they do, and go out to the fields. And it was the way that I kind of escaped, I would say, like during the pandemic, was like throwing myself into tequila knowledge. But when I came back to DC about a year ago, my parents, or my mom and my brother, decided to get much more involved in tequila, and I was feeling a little left out. And so I started this Instagram to try and just teach as much as I could about tequila knowledge and share my photos and what was kind of my perspective on it. And I realized on Instagram there was a lot of shows and a lot of lives that were happening, but none really focused on women. And there were rarely were females ever invited to these lives. And so that's when I reached out to Marissa and Heidi about starting a show. I actually just was like, we should just do one and like invite you on my show, kind of a deal. Mm-hmm. And afterwards we were like, I think we really got something. Like the energy just felt right. We really balanced each other out. And so we kind of were like, wait, I think we should actually stick with this, and like kind of like, don't go off to anyone else. Like, let's keep going. And then that's turned into every Tuesday, just kind of bringing someone on and keeping the education going.
Wow. Well, yeah. That explains that. So as an employed, what do you do? Do you do anything related to tequila, or is that completely separate and opposite?
This is my hobby. It really is. So I work at a nonprofit full time, which is perfect. I've been there for about 6 years now, and I love it. And so it's nice to, especially in the DC area, tequila is kind of like a nice thing to share and talk about that isn't the state of our country.
Yeah, outside of politics, right? But then I think the more you guys have interviewed people, and for the longest time I've lurked on social media. We have a presence on social media, but when it comes to all the Facebook groups that I belong to and all the Twitter accounts we follow and all that, I tend to just lurk and see what the pulse is of the audience out there. And what I've discovered is every generation has its own perspective, and every generation after you guys will have, every 10 years, liquor companies know how many will will turn of drinking age, and they study these people. They study market studies so that they see where the behaviors go to, and we're finding now the stuff that I'm reading and being exposed to is that people of your age and younger than me are looking for something a little bit more meaningful, when it comes to tequila marketing. They're looking for a story. They're looking for authenticity. They're looking for a reason to spend their money, because they're looking to drink good, but they're not looking to spend a whole hell of a lot all the time. And so it's kind of interesting to see how this upcoming generation is going to behave. Plus, the pandemic kind of changed everything too. It jettisoned, añejos and extra añejos and triple aged extra añejos, and so people were drinking better, but now there's a shortage of extras and there's a shortage of añejos, and somebody says, well, it's only a matter of time before the reposado, falls. There's a shortage of that too, but I don't see the
reposado is my drink. Like, that's my class of choice. So I'll add to that.
I was going to ask you, so when you select a drink, like for me, every time I get something delivered to us for sipping off the cuff, I always gravitate to the Blanco first, because to me, that's the core line. Yeah. But if you were just going out to some place, your favorite place in DC, and you're going to order a tequila, you usually order a reposado. Is that the one you gravitate to? And
Blanco is always for tasting, the first one, right? Because you want to make sure that the base is right. You want to really like pick up on the flavors and understand if that reposado, like, is the barrel making it interesting and complex, or is it trying to hide something, right? So yes, I will always start with the Blanco, and then especially if it's a brand that I trust,
right?
Then I just love that reposados have like the barrel adds a little bit of complexity and a little bit of sweetness, but it doesn't overtake the agave taste at all.
Those are the more, and I think those are the more traditionally made tequilas. I can name a couple right now. Carrera is one of my favorites. Having interviewed Lalo Camarena, and it's interesting to see how old school they are. That they're agave growers, and obviously they want the barrel to present the agave. They don't want it, like you said, to mask it or hide it. Maybe you want to round out the edges depending on what area you're from. Like, I think tequilas from Matitan were my favorites because I love the minerality. But some people were put off by that, so they filter it out, they oxygenate it, they do really funky things to. They should just leave it alone, because I love tequilas from Matitan. Those are my favorites, because you get that minerality you miss out on. It becomes a much softer tequila. So it's gratifying to know that you're really kind of gravitate to the old school. You just wanted the edges rounded out, but and nothing, nobody's hiding anything, and you want to still have that agave, that agave nose and presence, because, and that's why it bugs me when I hear that the super premium and extra premium categories have just launched after right during the pandemic, because I know that if you let a tequila age more than 5 years and sometimes 7 years, it's going to taste like something else. It won't taste like tequila. It's not going to be there. And we've had some really expensive tequilas this year just sent to us, that have been, they're legacy brands. They've been around for at least 8, 9, 10 years, and they have made a living, on the sweet side. So it's
also true that like the consumer drives the market, right? And I think it's interesting to me when I'm talking to people, especially DC is a very like bourbon whiskey town. So when I talk to people about how long tequila is aged for and the classes and everything, they're like, only 3+ years, like for an extra añejo. And I'm like, this isn't whiskey that can be aged 12, 14. Like, the prize, like, quality in that market is 25-year aged, spirits. Right. Yeah. And so I think that might just be the change, like these older brands that prized an older cast tequila doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting the taste or quality that you were expecting in a tequila either.
Yeah. It's for a different flavor profile, a different demographic, obviously, people with a little bit more disposable income,
I always say that, like, and it actually relates to your pandemic point too, is that like we'll have viewers ask like, what's your most expensive tequila, or like, I want to spend $300 or up to $500 on a bottle. And I'm like, I truly can't recommend anything. Like, not because there isn't anything good. I don't even have the money to pay for that. Like, so all the bottles I have are under $100. I can, if you want that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because people ask that question, and you spend a lot of your time. I've been doing this for 23. This is our 23rd year at Tequila Aficionado. Been doing it that long. We grew up with the internet, and we've always been about education, education, education. And just when you think that the public is becoming more savvy, I will say that I think the education is finally paying off. But it's taken 20 some odd years before we got to this point. But yet there are still pockets in all over the country, the United States, and all over the world where they're still shooting stuff. They're still about, it's about the collection for them. It's like, I got $1,000 bottle of tequila. It's like, why?
Yeah. My dad always says that people that refer to their tequila collections, that they're not saying it right. They're tequila options, and that's how you should always view your shelf.
Yeah, but that's if you're drinking.
Well, that's the point he's trying to make, is that they shouldn't be sitting there. They should be tequila options to drink.
Yeah, but they're not. And that's not what, that's why we call them collectors, because I've known a couple that had some of the largest collections of tequila. And I'm talking about vintage bottles, because it's not just about what's new. They're talking about ceramic Jose Cuervo black bottles like this that I've never seen. I don't know what era, what epocha are they coming from? Because I've never seen them. And these guys are just, but they don't drink. It's like, what is there anything I can drink? I can't even touch some of this stuff, because I might break it. I think Cesar Ramirez, I believe is his last name, in Las Vegas. He's a big collector, but he's a big drinker too, and of course he was a famous bartender in Las Vegas. I'm not sure what's up with the MGM properties, but hopefully they'll bring him back. But anyway, so most of them just want to show off, and so it was actually kind of neat to hear that at least people are drinking better, because there's not much else to do during the pandemic. Otherwise, read and you watch streaming, videos, and because you're at home.
Right.
So where do you see you taking this brand of yours? Is this something that you want to continue doing? Is it like on temporary? Do you want to have your own tequila one day?
That's a great question. I think for now, I'd love to focus still on the education, and I'd love to when I set out to do this Instagram, the first thing I wanted to do was I want to teach those that don't know anything about tequila and start bringing them into our world and start promoting just tequila awareness. And so I feel that with the following that I've been able to get so far, and especially on TikTok, it's been able to grow so much that I think I'm just now reaching the point where we really can start getting to new people and really challenging some assumptions about what tequila is. There's some pockets of the internet where those tequila aficionados already are, right, and they love tequila, they know everything about it, and we could have a whole college course dedicated to half the things they want to talk about. And I'd love to meet them at the bar, but I think my online presence is really just about expanding that pie and bringing everyone into it. And so about a tequila in the future, that would be incredible. That would be absolutely incredible. But I think ultimately working with brands that I trust and are reputable, and especially continuing to meet the people that are making those incredible tequilas and pushing them forward is probably where I'm most excited to go.
Why do you feel you need to do that?
To promote these brands? Mm-hmm. I feel like sometimes you don't know what you're looking for as a consumer. You might know the tastes that you like, or you might not know even what you're looking for. 5 years ago, I didn't even know what I was looking for in a tequila. I was just like, this one's $20 and the label is pretty. And so if I can help not only show someone, here's how you read a tequila label so that you can make a proper decision about what the best is for you. But if that's too much of an entry point, here's a few brands that I know are going to be fine, right? And once again, I've recommended incredible brands that people have come back to me and said, I hated that. And I'm like, well, let's try something else. Let's see what your let's see what your palate is, right? So it's like more of a long-term relationship building with these people that I think is also a really important part of the process.
Do you what kind of responses are you getting on TikTok? It's interesting because I like I say, I spoke to a marketing gentleman about your age a few days ago, and when I see TikTok, when I watch it, it's become a commercial. You know, it's 2 minutes, a minute and a half, and it's like I'm watching a commercial. A lot of brands are on it. There's a lot of brands on it, and I'm going, this is boring. You know, because if I want to see a commercial, I can watch network television and watch Herradura give me 2 minutes of why they're perfect, or the other tequila. When you go on TikTok, how's your response? How's your response from your audience? Because you're saying now that apparently you've garnered a following. Are they responsive, or do they interact with you there?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of comments, and some of them are like it truly is everything from I had no idea and that's really exciting to I already knew this and you forgot something to why are you even talking? But I get more people. The questions that I'm more excited about is when people are asking like, oh, I thought Cristalino was a class. Or I thought, yeah, things like that it's starting like a really good conversation. But I think the thing about TikTok that it seems like my experience might be a little bit different than yours is it's far more education driven. I think Instagram actually is a little bit more entertainment.
It's entertainment.
Actually,
yeah,
the videos are a little bit less like full of knowledge. They're more like little skits and stuff.
yeah.
And I think that's where I started getting the following was I was doing funny skits and like people thought that was funny, I guess. And then but with TikTok, it seems like they value the knowledge and the information. They just want it quicker. And so that's where I've been going with it a little bit more. But I think it's also an opportunity to be a little bit more of yourself actually than Instagram, a little less curated and a little bit more behind the scenes on things. And I think so what that looks like is me talking about which horoscope sign you are and like which tequila you should get.
I like that bit. That to me, that was kind of fun because I can spend an hour talking about, you know, astrology and tequila at the same time because yeah. it's like me talking about tequila and cigars. You know, the beautiful thing about the tequila that I found way back when I first started was the camaraderie. And there was a point in social media when it started to explode, when Twitter exploded and Facebook, and then the inception of Instagram, and you know, what I discovered as a tequila person, you know, I don't even want to use influencer because I'm not. I'm an infotainer, is what I am. Okay, because people remember if you're funny and you give them something of substance, they will remember it. You know. Even if you're self-deprecating, it doesn't matter.
Right.
What matters is that
that's the best, actually.
Yeah. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've spilled stuff on my computer, or you know, stuff dribbles out of my mouth. You know, when we're doing tastings, all that stuff. That's what we call it, sipping off the cuff, because it happens the way it's supposed to happen, right? So, what happened was with the expansion of the internet, I found that not only there was it was a kind of a wave to, how do I put this? There was a lot of haters that will go there, and even if you try to educate people, like someone, you know, I remember when Twitter first came out, I was a big Twitter nut when it first started, and people were talking about tequila, and I just ate the worm in tequila, and you know, and you kind of type back and you go, you know, there's no worm in tequila, and they flamed you. You know, you're trying to be nice to them and trying to, you know. And they go, hey, you know, anyway, you get flamed. And after a while, you just learn you don't, I'm much better off if I lurk. And it's rare that you'll see me jump into a current conversation. Yeah. There's one on Instagram right now about cultural appropriation, which to me is a big deal because that's where I live, you know. And so like I say, it's interesting to me now. And I said this to Marissa, I like seeing what this new crop of educators, tequila educators. Okay. I'm not going to call them influencers because I don't even like the word, because I don't want to influence anybody. Our job is to educate and let you, the audience, make up your mind. Okay. If you want to, you know, if we tell you what's inside this sweet tequila and you're still going to buy it, great, do that. All right. But, you know, tell us that you learned something. Because if you're just going to ignore, then, you know, go, there are other groups for that. So
yeah, yes, there's a bunch, and they all center very superficial things, or like they don't know you, right? And that's like the beauty of the internet, right? Is that like you can be anyone, but at the same time, if you put yourself out there, like anyone can be anyone and say anything, right? And I think that,
you know, you're also a target for projection. People have projected stuff on us that is completely out of left field, you know. And
sometimes people just want to be part of the conversation, and so they try to dig at something to try and be part of it or show. And it's taken me a little bit to like understand where someone wants to just be part of it, or someone has a weird bone to pick. But honestly, the thick skin has had to grow. But it is interesting that people want to know like me more, not my tequila education more. And so I'm still in the process of like trying to figure out like what is that line, and how much of my own privacy that I want to keep.
What's your TikTok persona?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My uncurated but curated TikTok persona.
Yeah. I meant to fall down. I meant to trip and fall. Yeah. So yeah, but you know, so you see, like I say, Tequila Aficionado grew with the internet, you know, because when we first started, there wasn't video. We didn't have Zoom. We had audio, you know, and it's funny how we've come full circle now, because now we have a podcast where people could just listen to us. They can listen to this conversation and without having to watch, you know, the video, which is kind of cool, because we didn't have that when we started. We had, you know, the big professional microphone and a console, and there was no way to muffle out the noise. Our first podcast was in a restaurant in Pasadena, California. And so you have all the ambient noise and the people laughing, and then the waiters are coming over asking you if you want anything else. And, you know, and that's how we started. But I like to see what this new crop of educators is how they're unifying, because I miss, and I told this to Marissa too, I said, I miss the camaraderie, because the internet kind of took all that away. You know, those of us who started together, there was 35 of us who came together in one big tour before tequila tours was a thing. Somebody organized it. We were all on a tequila forum called the Blue Agave Forum. And this was prior to Facebook. Okay. Even prior to that, I was on the email lists. Yahoo and Topica had, you know, where you would you would join this club, and somebody would type a question, and everybody who belonged to that club would answer in. And so you got this long thread, and that's how tequila forums began, and then it merged to a forum, then Facebook. And so, and I've been through that whole, you know, that lived through all that. And when there was 35 of us who had never met before, the one thing we had in common was tequila. And somebody put together a tour. It was 3 days, like 12 distilleries, something crazy, ridiculous.
That's a lot.
Well, there's no sleep and lots of drinking. But it was probably the best thing I ever did. And I had been doing tequila shows in New Mexico before there were any shows. We were the first ones to do it. And so when that came to a halt, and I found this group, and I said, sure, I've been having my own shows. I may as well go see what this is all about. I've been in love again ever since. And so I'm hoping that for your generation and people that you're educating and entertaining, I hope that they get that too. You know, I hope that they sense the camaraderie, because it was the biggest blind date I've ever been on. 35 of us from all walks of life, collectors to you know, just writers, educators. I think on one of my second trips, I met Sarah Bowen, who wrote one of our books, one of the books that I follow. I met her when she was still in, I think she was still in college. It was kind of neat for me to meet these people, and I have to thank David Suro for that, because he opened it up for me, for academics, because and I don't know if you've done this yet, but I know you've been to the CRT and you've talked to master distillers, but to talk to academics, that's another point of view from the University of Guadalajara, Dr. Ana Valenzuela. Like I said, I met Sarah Bowen. Her Spanish is better than mine. She lives in, she lives, I forget where, she lives back east somewhere. So it's neat. I'm really hoping that you can have that, because that's how you really fall in love with this thing that we call, because the tequila industry doesn't need us, but the people who are wanting to branch out, they need you. And maybe no one's ever said that to you or Marissa or Heidi. The people always thank us for what we do for the industry, but the industry hasn't thanked us. No, and because we know the industry doesn't need us. CRT doesn't need us. The CNIT doesn't need us.
Yeah, I will say though, I've gotten a lot of praise from the CRT and from brands directly that, like, I know that they're selling things probably anyways, but it seems like they're acknowledging that we're helping ease a little bit of that barrier to entry.
I hope so. Because to me, what is needed is more people who educate properly. The way you guys do it. And granted, you're still beginning. I mean, there's no telling how you're going to eventually evolve to the point where you don't want to do those tequila 101s. You're not going to want to.
Well, yeah, maybe. I hope not.
Well, it depends on how long you guys wind up doing this. It seems to me like you're in for the long haul anyway, because even owning a brand is a long game. You're not going to. There's only been one patron, and that was lightning in a bottle. Everybody else, stand in line, because it's a tough industry. Do you have anybody?
It's a very tough industry.
You have anyone in your family in the industry? Is there anywhere along the supply chain, or working at a distillery?
Yeah, my brother distributes tequila now. So my mom and my brother started a company.
Oh, wait. Is that
Tequila 181?
It is. It's you guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I just reached out to, I guess, somebody there.
Yeah, my brother.
Oh,
we were talking right before this.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, because we always look for us. Tequila Aficionado, we're always soliciting. We're always being solicited, and we love startup brands because they're the ones that need the attention. They're the ones that need the leg up. They're the ones that need the exposure. And as crowded as this market is, the tequila market is crowded. So when I saw 181, I went, so go to the gnome list and see there's only a handful of tequilas coming out of that distillery that they represent. And those are brand new. I've never seen them. I want them. I want to taste them. I want to see, and hopefully, we'll get samples and we'll have them on, we'll have two of the brands on Sipping Off the Cuff, hopefully. Maybe you can put in a good word for your brother. So do you want to get back?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. So I have the bottles right here too. I can pull it out. But
well, you did a bit on Instagram with one of those. Yeah.
Casa Verde was the other one.
Verde.
So yeah. So they are working with Casa Marengo, which is a distillery in Arenal, it's like pretty much right across the street from Gascoigne, for like context on the street. And they're a tiny little distillery, family owned. They've been in business for a really long time. I don't know exactly how long, but a very long time. Family owned, Mexican owned. And it was one of those things that when my dad and when the whole family was down there, and we would, take the road out to Tequila from Guadalajara, it's just along the way. And so we stopped off, and my dad fell in love with their tequila, like absolutely obsessed with their tequila. And then that way, and then the whole family got obsessed with their tequila. And my dad, now having to move, was and my brother as well, was like, we can't leave without like having this tequila again, because we don't want to keep coming down. And so my brother he majored in business and was graduating at the time. And he started this company with my mom so that they could start bringing, especially Amorindio, this one, to first all the El Paso area. We wanted to start small, conquer what you know, and then expand, test small, And so they just started in December 2021, very brand new.
Wow, I want it. You know what's interesting to me? I interviewed another gentleman from who owns a brand that's big in Houston. They want to own Houston, and there's a lot of high-powered people that are involved in this brand. And I interviewed him. He was in his office in Houston. You couldn't see a lot of him, but a great view out his window. And he said to me, in our conversation, he says there are gems in Mexico that people don't even know, that sometimes you'll never get. And he says, and I said, name one. He says, it's called Mi Tierra. And I go, I've had it. We just had it. It comes, the bottle looks like a piña. And I love that tequila. And they sent us when they sent us the bottles, they sent us their a little bit of their marketing deck. And it's a really small distillery, but it's really well self-contained. They have the stainless steel vats and they have wooden vats. So their ability to give you a different tequila, if you were to contract with them,
right,
is good. But it was so cool. I said, I've got a bottle of it right here, man. I love that tequila. So so it's interesting to me that even people who own their own brands are looking for Amorindio. They're looking for that. And so,
well, we don't own a brand. We're just distributing for them.
Right.
And so we have no ownership, but yeah, they have all their own fields. And so when we had the opportunity to go out there, and I mean, they hand select each agave that goes into Amorindio to make sure it's like the right sugar levels. And so when we just knew that they were doing a really, really great job. I think that's when they decided to kind of like take the plunge. And I like my nonprofit job way too much, and sometimes working with family is just not always in the cards.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any role in it, but I am an avid supporter of their bottles, and I will purchase them.
Well, and I don't blame you. I don't, and that, again, excuse me, that's why I say, the Ochos of the world and Fortalezas, they started when I was there at Fortaleza, when they opened up lot 1. And we were in the cave, we were in the cava. There were no lights in there. It was just us and the bats and some shot glasses. And we knew this was literally a blind tasting. We had seen the grounds. We'd been walked with Guillermo Sousa. I got to meet Guillermo's mother, Sylvia, before she passed away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing that what was coming out. We knew it was special then. And now, it's taken him that long now to finally grab a foothold in the marketplace, but there's got to be other ones, you know what I mean? There has that's to me is the beauty of this spirit, is that there always something more authentic, more, more old school, because all that other stuff, diffuser and with a celebrity brand on, behind it or in front of it, or, invested in it, that's all mainstream to me.
Right.
And there's no, I say that tequila tasting is becoming a lost art. That's in fact, that's the reason why we wrote the book on the consumer catador course, because I maybe you'll believe me or you'll agree with me. I think that mainstreaming what tequila is to the public is not what you're drinking, what you're holding in your hands. And there's the danger in losing this art of tequila tasting, because they're dumbing it down. And I think that's why we're getting a lot more of a migration into mezcals and sotos and raicillas. And I don't know, have you done any of that before? Have you ventured out and done, tasted some mezcals or
Yeah, no, I've been to Oaxaca and I've done all of the mezcal stuff. It's just not like the spirit of my palate kind of a deal. I love like tobala mezcals, but they're a little bit softer than this like the smoky forwardness that you get with some of the other agaves. So that's what I tend towards, but
Do you think you'll ever develop a palate for it though?
maybe. I haven't worked towards it very much, to be honest, but
Would you like to?
yeah, I mean, I'd like to, especially, yeah, mezcal is very popular right now, right? And I feel like there's still a lot more to do in the tequila world. And so I haven't ventured too much out, but I will say my fiance loves mezcal. So it's very possible that like
Oh,
now
cool.
it's like going to be very much more in my mix. And I, I, I'm, I kind of want to go back to your statement that tequila education has been so dumbed down that
Well, not just the education, but the tequila itself. I think, for the public, it, whatever the celebrity's drinking at the time, that and it's not the flavor. So when you get those people that you recommend a tequila, a well-known one, let's say they didn't like Ocho, they didn't like, Calle 23, and they say, oh, it was probably the worst thing I've ever had. And you're going, how can, that's not ignorance. The fact is that person was not allowed to develop a palate for real tequila because he's been drinking the Don Julio that's been softened down. Don Julio hasn't been the same since 2006.
right.
Old school Don Julio was old school Don Julio, but the stuff we're getting now, it's all mass produced, and it's not, so that's when I rarely make a recommendation, but when they ask me and then they come back and they tell me that, I know, I don't tell them this, but I know that that's because they have not had a chance to taste what real tequila is all about. And so
Right. But everyone's palate starts somewhere. And so like, yes, there are times when I recommend a tequila that I probably wouldn't drink on my normal end, but I know it's the tequila that will get them just interested enough that they'll want to keep going, right? And
right.
then from there, like, so yeah, if some people saw some of the tequilas I would recommend, they'd probably try to like block me or cancel me or whatever.
Whatever.
But I know that's the one that's going to get them hooked into the spirit. And then once we get them interested in the spirit, they'll start wanting to know more, because that's just when you start to like something, you start to kind of put yourself into it a little bit more. I think mezcal is still on the cusp of that. I think people are still drinking it and it's still new for them. And that's like really cool and interesting. I don't see the same brand loyalties that I do in the tequila industry from people. Like, people are like, oh, I only drink Patron or I only drink Don Julio, right? But I think it's because a lot of mezcal is just starting to become relevant enough in the United States that a brand affinity hasn't really come out yet, but I think it will very, very soon, because it's been so popular, like over and over and over again. I literally can't get a cocktail in DC out of tequila. It's all mezcal. Like, so
no kidding.
I have to specifically ask, can I get this with tequila instead of mezcal?
Really? Wow.
Even like a paloma, like margarita, like it's all mezcal.
No kidding. Well, because I know that there are pockets of mezcalerias, throughout the United States. There's one in Dallas that I know of that we interviewed the owners, right when they were opening. I mean, they were still building it out,
Oh, that's awesome.
and it's called Las Almas Rotas, and it's now become the mezcaleria in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I believe there's one in San Antonio. I was never able to visit it, but they're very few and far between. LA is different. LA's got several mezcalerias, and one that will only serve mezcal. There are other tequila bars that do a combination of both. But I guess it just depends on the state. But
Yeah.
That's interesting to me that you can't get a tequila cocktail in DC. What the hell? Yeah, you can't walk. I can't get a cocktail, made with mezcal where I'm at. It's all tequila. So but we know that the numbers don't lie. 80%
Right.
of whatever's exported is exported here, and most people
87%.
Yeah, and most people drink it in a cocktail. So
And I am like, cheers to you. If you're drinking in a cocktail, as long as you're starting somewhere. But yeah, it's interesting how the mezcal industry has also taken over in different parts and places. I think of it a lot because once again, we are DC, we are a dark spirit place. So I'm thinking like Scotch is something that's really popular here. And so it's the bad like boyfriend of tequila, and so that's where people are like getting hooked into.
I've had a few bad girlfriends, but I'm not
There you
sure.
go.
Um,
Like the biker boyfriend is what I'm getting.
oh, the bad boy. I see. Okay, well, that's different. Yeah, never been that. Uh, that's good. I like that. But yeah, to me, the way the tequilas that we're getting, and we, obviously we're tequila aficionado, but we've opened it up. We've been doing
Right.
sotos and daicias and everything. It hit me. We had stuff from New Zealand. It's gorgeous. We had a mezcal version from Australia that is just amazing. It's amazing to see how other countries that have agave that grow there are adding their spin, and it's still an homage to what the original, because they've all been to Mexico. That's where they've been trained, or they learned about it. They've all traveled to that and then brought it back to their countries and said, well, how do I make it our own?
Right.
And that's cool because you got plants that grow. Agave grows everywhere, even in China. So
There's a distillery in the Chesapeake Bay area of Maryland that has an agave spirit, and I want to go check it out soon and see just like how do they like what are they doing? Like it's just so wet and rainy and like humid and just
well, they
anti Jalisco that
no,
I'm
do they say they grow their own plants?
I don't know. And I want to go up and see like just how they do
Okay.
it and what their whole process is and all of that. But it's still interesting how the agave spirit seems to be also a lot more um, notable and just much more. I see it far more often than I ever knew that tequila was a like certified thing.
Yeah, yeah. I could go into why they're called agave spirits with the micro distillers and probably what they're doing. We had one that we actually awarded as a brand of promise as an American agave spirit. And they're an organic distillery in Ohio. Okay. And the way they do it is they purchase certified organic blue agave concentrate from Jalisco. There's a company out there called, I think it's called La Tierra, I believe. It's called Tierra, the Tierra Group. And they are a multi-certified distillery where they grow their own agave, organic, certified organic, kosher, gluten-free. They got all the certifications, but we know that they have a diffuser, but they can't use the acid hydrolysis. They can't do that in order to get all these certifications. They're halal, for God's sake, which is that's like the kosher certification for Muslim countries. So it's got to live up to all these standards. And what they do is they make a blue agave concentrate, okay, and they ship that to the United States, and they have an office and a warehouse in Minneapolis, I believe, somewhere in Bloomington, Minnesota. And from there, they sell that blue agave concentrate to micro distillers throughout the US. And I've been told it's not cheap. It's an expensive, concentrate. I've even seen the pictures of it, and it looks like molasses. It looks like it's just been, looks like it's caramelized, but you're not sure, what it is, and it kind of smells funny. And then they take it, they run it, they ferment it, run it through their stills, and then add their spin to it. Because chances are this distillery already makes a bourbon, they already make a whiskey, they already make a gin or a vodka or something. And so this adds it expands their core line. And that's probably what these folks are doing. I've been watching them. I wrote about them in one of my books, but I want to taste more of it, because the one I got from Ohio is probably a hair under a Highlands tequila. It's good. It's really good. And it's because of what they're using. They're not using agave syrup. And a lot of distillers will say, I've tried it with agave syrup. It's like I'm making whiskey. I don't like it. Some of them don't mind, I think there's one in Kentucky that makes it out of agave syrup, or agave nectar, I think. And so I would love to get your perspective if you ever go visit. Get a sample and then break it down, with either yourself or with the girls, because I want to see what you thought. I've only had that one. I have not been able to acquire any more agave spirit from other micro distillers. There's one in Albuquerque I've been trying to reach, and they have an agave spirit also. So yeah, it's not that they're growing their own plant, because they can't grow it there.
Right, they can, yeah.
Now California is. They are growing there. There's an initiative to start a whole, because we're in a drought situation, especially Central California, and they want to try and make it an industry where it would be not only just for alcohol, but for everything, biofuel, you name it. They want to use the plant, and it's not just blue agave, but primarily blue. I think of some agave Americana also. So it's interesting that that's why I say if you're ever going to expand your palate, record it, put it on Instagram, because otherwise it doesn't exist. I would love, again, because I have this fear that tequila tasting is becoming a lost art, because sometimes there's nothing to pull out. I mean, I don't know if you found that, but I have.
I see what you're saying. So it's not necessarily that like people don't know the skills on tasting, or that people are interested in tasting. It's that the spirits themselves have been so regimented, or like
muted.
Yeah, that's a better term. Like muted. Yeah. That like, yeah. I mean, they're once you get to a certain caliber, yeah, they all start to taste the same. And it's only with a few distilleries, especially, that you start to get some interesting stuff out of it.
Yeah. Well, like what you're holding in your hand. Show that bottle again, because I really, is that what you're sipping on now?
So I'm actually not sipping on this now, but I should right now after this. I'm actually sipping a Wild Common Blanco.
Oh, okay. I haven't been able to acquire that one.
but yeah, this is, I mean, it's actually on a stand, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, this one's the añejo. It's French oak barrels for 18 months.
18 months. You said you gravitate to the reposados. Is that always the case, or have you found yours? I mean, are there some añejos you like better than reposados, or the other way around?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's like Amorindio. I love the reposado, but I usually tend to go to their añejo. Just I love that one for some reason, and even like Fortaleza's añejo, I really like theirs as well. But those are all brands that I'm like, I'll drink anything in your lineup, right?
Yeah, you drink it out. Yeah, I keep saying, well-made tequila, even a well-made mezcal, you could drink out of your tennis shoe, and it will just add another layer of complexity. So,
yeah, I would.
Now, I know that there's something special going on with you in your life, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I know that you're in a life upheaval right now, because you just got engaged. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know. Yeah, I just got engaged.
She said yes. Did you do the Instagram? She said yes.
Well, I actually was even more annoying, and I did ringing in the new year because it was on New Year's Eve.
Oh no, geez, you could have gotten canceled for that.
Honestly, that was fine. That'd be fine.
Yeah. Are you finding, now that you've been dealing with the public in your two arenas, which is Instagram and TikTok, I don't think you're on anything else. I'm not sure. Maybe you are. How have you been dealing with the haters and are you seeing more of them? Because what Marissa said was very interesting to me. She said, I was just posting videos and I wasn't getting the negative comments as much until she started appearing in her own videos. I said, that's what it was. And I'm not sure. I mean, I have a pretty good idea why that is, but now that because you're always in your videos, are you finding
Yeah.
that your conversations every once in a while you'll get, you know, somebody, a naysayer, a hater, whatever, whoever, a critic. How are you handling those now? Are you, because I know for me initially it was you're taking everything personally, and that's just, and
Yeah.
it's not, that's my own personal quirk. So I try not to anymore. At this point, it's, you know, it's like water off my back. But are you still, you know, a little peeved when somebody says, no, that's not right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? Like it's hard to like to hear it some or to see it sometimes and read it. There was my first TikTok video that went like kind of viral. Um, I had one guy that just kind of kept commenting about how, you know, I'm not Mexican and he's not going to get knowledge from a woman, and I don't know anything because I'm a woman. And I like I
Wow.
will say that was like probably the only one that went after me more specifically. I get a lot of comments that sometimes like I don't say words with enough like Spanish jazz. Like I'll just say reposado, and they want me to be like reposado on these videos, but like I'm not gonna take 15 seconds to say reposado. Like I can just say it. And so
Oh my God.
and
Um,
so like I'll get things like, and I will say when that first TikTok video really took off and I started getting those comments about like mostly my ethnicity and then a little bit about my gender. Um
so people think
yeah,
that
it was
you're not
hard to,
Mexican? They
huh?
think you're not Mexican?
I guess I don't look Mexican enough. So
What does that mean?
well, exactly. Well, that was the whole conversation, right? And so it led to a good conversation about stereotypes and the how, you know, yeah, cultures are not homogeneous, so it's just we are different people. And anyways, but that first weekend I was like, do I even want to do this? Do I even want to put myself out there anymore? Because it was starting to take a toll on me. Like I started checking much more frequently and I was like, okay, like what's happening? But then honestly, 24 hours later, I got more people commenting and being like, hey, she sounds like she really knows what she's doing. I love what you're doing. I see your passion and I'm really excited about learning with you. So I've started to learn that like for every person that's hating, there's also that same person that's really excited and learning. And I'm trying to focus more on them and trying to remember our First Amendment of free speech and that everyone has the right to free speech and yeah, valuing that.
Good. You know, I think I spoke to this with Heidi when in our conversation. I said Heidi was one of the first ones to actually write. She reached out to me. She and I have since 2017 we have like this email relationship. You know,
Oh, that's nice.
she reached out to me on LinkedIn about a brand she was representing at the time that I had no idea that was coming from Meli Barajas. And we've interviewed Melly, and she was one of the first ones to get our book Babes to Boss Ladies, because I start the book and I start it was a kind of a monthly thing that we would do on Tequila Aficionado, and I started it with just a profile of just a few of the women that I had met and been exposed to, and I started with a quote from the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama said that the world will be saved by the Western woman. And it was very inspiring to see that quote. And I thought, you know what? When I first met Ana Valenzuela on my second trip to Mexico, she's this diminutive little gal, by a doctor whose books I've read. In fact, I brought my book so she could autograph it. And then she gave me another one of hers that I didn't know she had. She travels with her own snifter, her own balloon snifter, you know, and
Wow.
when you have Anna in your sites, you want her to try your latest rendition of or your latest batch of whatever you're making. And I was fascinated to be exposed to the academics of the world as opposed to the master distillers, and there were no such things as influencers at that point. So I called myself a tequila journalist. I wrote about it. You know, that's what we
Right.
did for Tequila Aficionado. And it's since evolved after that. But it was fascinating to me to see the other point of view from the scientific and academic background, because now you just shut up. You just shut up and take notes like you're in class, okay? Because that's what it was for me. You know, when you have somebody who speaks the truth and is giving you all this. So when I came back from that trip, I said, there's got to be more women involved in this. It can't be just all guys. It can't be just all agaveros. You know, I didn't meet one agavera, not one. You know, it was always, it was a male dominated thing. And that's one of the questions. So I started reaching out to whoever I could get, Ana Maria, Ana Valenzuela, Ileana
Partida is like incredible and one of my favorites.
When I watched that interview with her and you guys, that was so cool because she actually filled out our questionnaire. We have a series of 5 questions. We ask it to everybody, and we put these in volumes called Profiles in Agave Spirits that started with Babes to Boss Ladies. She is in she was one of the final interviews for Babes to Boss Ladies. She was kind enough to answer those questions, and every single person answered those 5 questions differently. You know, so it was kind of cool to get all these different perspectives from the women. And I've been looking, we have 12 tasters now throughout the United States for Tequila Aficionado. We've grown that much from just me and Alex. And we're all over the US and one guy in the UK. And I have been looking for women for like the last 5 years. Lisa Peach, our managing partner, I said, you know, when we were so inundated with, you know, at the time we were growing this brand, we were so inundated with people sending us tequila that I needed another taster because Alex works for somebody else. I mean, all these guys work for someone else. I'm the only one, and Lisa's the only one. We just do this, okay? And so she asked her brother can we, you know, because he was a big time tequila collector too, and so that's how we branched out. But for like the last 5 years, I've been looking for really a female, you know, because I think that is the missing link. So it's kind of cool to see the 3 of you guys come together and do what you're doing, because you're right. The industry needs that. They need to see your perspective. 70% of the buying decisions are made by women. That's buying anything from a car to your house to, you know,
medical decisions.
Yeah, right. You know, vehicles. Yeah. You know, how many times have you been to the liquor store before the pandemic and you got a guy in the wine aisle going, honey, he's calling his wife, hon, what was the brand of that wine you want me to bring home? You know,
right.
He just does, and she just tells him what she wants and he brings it home, you know, and that's how these decisions are made. But why, you know, it's just lately that marketing has finally started gravitating toward women, but even then they don't have women doing the marketing. They have guys doing the marketing to women. So it's
totally different.
Yeah, it's all wrong. It's all wrong.
Right. Whereas like I'm like, let's talk about your zodiac and pair it with a tequila, and let's watch like the Real Housewives of whatever.
Salt Lake City. I know one of them. I knew her before she was famous. She has a tequila brand. Yeah, Lisa Barlow.
Yeah,
she's in our book. She answered our questions. Yeah, so you know, I knew her before she was always famous, but now she's really famous. So yeah, you know, in fact, I know that you guys have interviewed Mara Smith of Inspiro. We had
I love that tequila.
She was our first interview for this year, which I think will premiere end of this month. We're in January, folks. When you see this, it'll be April. It'll already be out. So I asked her, I said, how are you marketing to your audience? What are you doing? And she has a completely different, you know, she's looking for the type of woman that you know, that is active in clubs, or, you know, is an entrepreneur. You know, she is specifically looking for her target market. And it's interesting to me. I was so fascinated because it was a point of view I'd never heard. I hadn't been able to get somebody to tell me, a woman, how she's going to market to her target audience that is making 70% of the buying decisions for the family. Okay. So it was really cool to get that perspective. And she, and the tequila is outstanding.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's not, it comes in a nice elegant bottle. And we said this in our review. Guys, don't be put off by the bottle. This is a substantial tequila. This has got a great finish. And it's just you're trying to bring everybody into the fold. So when you're getting responses, are you seeing more male, female? What's the breakdown for you and your metrics? Do you even know? Do you even care?
Yeah, no, I got interested in that recently because I was also curious, like, am I actually reaching like the women that I'm trying to, right?
No.
Because it is for everyone, but I'm a girl's girl and I want to talk to ladies. And so
I agree.
it's just who I am. And so I'm going to be authentic to that. But on Instagram, it's a little bit more 60-40, 60% male, 40% female. But on TikTok, it's pretty 50-50, which is great. And I think like the more I can spend time on growing that audience, especially how I think TikTok is younger as well. And so it might just fit my style a little bit more since it's a little it's educational, but it's still upbeat. And I think that might hopefully like get to the true audience that I'm looking for as well.
What are the age brackets? Do you know the age demographics for you?
Mine's between 25 and 34.
Yeah, so that's your target right there. Ours is,
and that's like exactly where I think I ain't going younger. That's for sure.
well, but see, but I think you should too. I mean, it's something you need to be aware of, because as I said, the big companies, they pay these they do the marketing studies. They know approximately how many millions of young people will become of drinking age in the next decade. They know that. They study that, and so they watch that behavior. And I think it's important I've always thought it was important to try to keep, all the age brackets, all the demographics, involved, because I think of the only thing to me, you can go to any party, okay, and you have relatives of different ages. You got your grandfather, your grandmother, you got, aunts and uncles and cousins, and they're all different ages, right? But the one thing that always brings them together is tequila. And especially, and I have to say, probably with the Hispanics and Latinos, and whether you're Mexican or Colombian or whatever, there's something about tequila that makes it a multi-generational or intergenerational sipping and drinking. You can.
My whole family, that's all we talk about. I mean, sure, we talk about each other's days, but like when you're trying to get into like an interesting topic, it's, have you tried this one, or have you seen what this is coming out, or this finish, or it's a lot of fun, and being able to share that with the family and pick up on different tasting notes and stuff. It's definitely brought us all together in a different way.
And I think that's why TequiLadies works. Matter of fact, like I say, I lurk on social media. It wasn't until Lisa brought it to my attention. She says, you should really watch these gals. They look like they know what they're doing. And I know Heidi. So I thought, okay, sure. I'm usually in the gym at the time when you guys are on. So it's like, okay. So I'm between sets, I'll watch and listen, and, my headset. And I thought, hey, okay. We're
fun. We got it.
Yeah, but you're also interviewing. You're not afraid to interview people. Now, I know Heidi kind of stays a lot. She's kind of like the den mother. She'll kind of stay silent. She'll interject with a really incisive question. But you and Marissa kind of riff off each other a lot. I mean, I like the dynamic. Have you guys met in person?
So we just finally met in person for like the first time a few months ago.
Where?
So I was in New York City. My best friend moved up there, and so I went to go visit her. And so we were able to meet up at Añejo in New York. And so we had a great time. It was actually Halloween. We met up on Halloween.
Oh my God. It's a good thing you guys weren't in costume, I suppose. Because
she even said the other day, she was like, weren't you in costume when we met? And I was like, I think you're trying to tell me I didn't dress pretty, or like my outfit wasn't great, but no, I was not in costume, girl.
So, okay. this is the $64,000 question. Now that you're educating, I don't want to call you an influencer. I don't want to go. Yeah. This guy, the marketing guy I spoke to, is very, like I said, very enlightening to me. Where he says, I work with nano, micro, and macro influencers. It's like, wow, you've broken them down to that, you know. So I don't know where you fit. Yeah, I think you're probably a micro influencer if they were to pigeonhole you guys.
Yeah.
But maybe. I'm not going to call you that. I'm going to call you educators. Okay. So now that you've acquired a following, and let's say you've inspired you get a DM from some gal, what would you say to that person if she DM'd you, if she slid into your DMs and said, I want to do what you're doing. How do I get started?
That would be like the greatest compliment of all time. That's actually the exact same message that I sent Lucas Assis from TikTok. Was I saw him doing it and I was like, if you can do it, I can too. Not in any bad way, but just like let's all do this, right? And so the more women that can get on tequila pages, and I mean, I think our show is truly the best when we have 4 women on the show. So like, yeah, get in there. Let's get on it. Like, let's do this. So I feel like I would be like, when do we get started? I guess.
So you would do what you could to help that person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why not? The more information, we all are going to find different parts of the market. We're all going to have our unique audiences, our own take on things. Like me and Marissa's videos are very different from one another. Even me and Heidi's are completely different from one another. So I think the more knowledge, the more diversity, the more, I guess inclusion we can bring to the industry, like the better tequila that we're going to have, the more informed, more information we're going to have. And I would really welcome more women to be involved in it and really challenge each other to do better.
Wow. There you go. There you have it, folks. We've been
so if you start one, please let me know, because I would love to be there.
So there you go. See, that's and that's what was missing, for the longest time. As I said, the expansion from the time that we had that 35 bunch of strangers that met till just now, I'm starting to see the camaraderie and the helping everybody else, and coalescing into one mind, maybe not necessarily one point of view, but at least having an open conversation about, let's just say cultural appropriation, whatever the topic is, or right. This añejo versus that añejo, tequila versus mezcal, whatever. And I really do sincerely believe that we need to see more women online doing what you guys are doing, and not just younger women, but older. Me and Heidi's age, or even more than that. Because
Heidi's very young, though. I don't know what you're talking about.
What's that?
I'm good. I said Heidi's very young, though.
Oh yeah, she's very young. No, she is. She is very young. You know what? She's younger than me, and that's cool. Everybody who's younger than me is younger than me. Okay, but I sincerely hope that this, and what you're doing opens up more doors. Because
and I will say, I think that's also the beauty of our show too, is that we do have a woman in almost every distinct age demographic as well, because Heidi is targeting some of those, the older tequila lovers. Marissa's right in the middle, and then I guess I'm the baby of the bunch, and so yeah,
you're the little girl.
I know. Most of my comments are you even old enough to drink?
Oh my God. You know what? You could take that as a compliment too. I mean,
I totally would. Yes.
When I want to get back to that where someone said to you that you didn't look Mexican enough. You know what? Here's what I know for a fact. David Suro said to me years ago. I consider him one of my mentors. He's the creator of Siembra Azul. He owns his own restaurant in Tequila's Philly. You need to go there. All right. And I told this to Marissa, you go to Philly and you see David Searle's restaurant, you're in a whole other world. And he said to me, what's interesting about the industry is that the male ego is so involved that it gets in the way. And he says, it's not uncommon that the people who write about tequila and who talk about tequila are not from Mexico, who defend tequila are not Mexicans. He said, and I looked at him and I said, boy, you're not kidding. Alex, the founder of Tequila Aficionado, good friend of mine now, he's Cuban. Okay. My folks are from Central America. They're from Nicaragua. We're rum drinkers. Okay. That's what I grew up with.
Flor de Caña is great.
Flor de Caña. That's it, man. And he said the person who's in charge of the Cuervo archives is Spanish. She's from Spain.
Oh, wow.
And so, or had been, I don't know how that all worked out, but I know that the person curating that and in charge of that was Spanish, from Spain. So it's not uncommon that you get one of the other catadores that I first met, certified catador from the Mexican Tequila Academy, was from El Salvador. He was Salvadoreño. So, so we had a lot in common, when I first met him. And one of the other first catadores was I want to say he was Danish. So it's not uncommon that you will hear education about tequila from people who are not Mexican. Okay.
And I don't think that being Mexican certifies me in any way to be more experienced than any other person that's talking about it, because I am limited in my knowledge, right? And like, if this Danish person has been learning about tequila their entire life, or like, what, I don't know. You do you, have fun, have your knowledge and work together to get better.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I say, that's kind of a really strange comment, because I grew up in LA where, ethnicity was everywhere. I mean,
right. I also see that a lot with people on commenting that they only want to hear about Mexican-owned tequilas, which I totally understand. And I totally understand the value of bringing attention to Mexican-rooted families. However, there are brands out there that are owned by Americans, and Speedo, Wild Common, that are absolutely incredible, that should not be discounted at all, that are made still at Gascawin with the Rosales family. And they're it's still the right route, I think, of what they're trying to get to when they're saying that I want a Mexican-owned tequila, but it's not exactly it, right? And so that's the next, I think, knowledge point to hit, especially for those that want to try and do a good thing.
Yeah. What I'm also finding now that I've talked to a lot of newer brand owners who are just launching their brands, they're younger. They're not the old dogs that I've grown up with as well. And what I love is people behind Wild Common. There's another one coming up that I've got my eye on. We've communicated before. They actually reached out to me personally. And what I love is I love the intention of the brand owners of what they're trying to do. I tell people, don't try not to criticize everything just because there's a celebrity involved. Okay. Try to have an open mind, because when you back engineer who is behind the brand and what their focus is, whether they record it on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Find out where they're coming from. And then when you taste the juice, it'll all resonate with you. You will get it. And I think that that's the missing ingredient in a lot of great tequilas, a lot of mainstream tequilas, is there's no intention. The only intention is to make a buck. All right. But when there's intention behind a brand, you can sense it. And that's what I'm trying. That's the one element, the one sense that doesn't take into what it's not, you can't take into account with tequila tasting. There's smell, there's sight, there's taste, there's mouthfeel, but there's a missing intention. And I think that's what people are actually gravitating to, but they don't know it yet. And I think that's probably where I'm going to start leading eventually, is that there's this one sense that you will get. At first, you have to immerse yourself in the flavor and the smells and all that, and maybe speak to the brand owners and see their perspective, and then you'll be able to feel the intention behind the brand. And I think that is the missing element. And that's why I do these shows, because I want to know what the intention is behind the brand. I've been very fortunate to talk to a guy, like I say, in the middle of Houston, high rise, and a brand owner like Chris Cardenas, who is the owner of Anger Management. And the intention is there. The intention is the same. So just because one tequila is a luxury tequila and that's their focus, and that's, they got the girls in the white dresses, and the other guy is doing Instagram lives while he's driving, but the intention is still the same, and the juice is still good. And that's the kind of open-mindedness that I want to see. So I applaud you guys for doing what you're doing, and bring more of them. I hope somebody sends you an email and says, I want to do what you're doing. How do I get started? Because when it comes to the male-dominated part of this, it's all about sales. It's all about jealousies. It's all about competition.
Right.
And especially guys my age, or who grew up in the sales part of it. I never intended to be a salesman. I started. My first job was at a health club. I wanted to help people lose weight and gain muscle. Yeah, I worked for what eventually turned into Bally's. That was my first job. I was a private instructor, and I did that for a long time, actually. But my manager at the time said, okay, because I used to open up with him at 6 a.m, and so that was tough. But he said, okay, now I'm going to teach you how to sell memberships. I go, I don't want to sell. I want to help people. That's what I wanted to do. He says, no. He says, my job is predicated on my numbers. So the more sales I make before the regular manager shows up at 10 o'clock, I get promoted. Oh, okay. Does that mean I get promoted too? Yeah. So, and that's how it started. So I sold health club memberships. And then, but that was never my intention. My intention was to instruct, to help, coach. That's what I wanted to do. And so that's why I like doing these shows, because I want to see where the intention is behind the brand. You guys have a brand now, and it's the intention is you can see it. I mean, you're not hiding anything. You're pretty transparent, all three of you. So I hope that continues for you guys, and that there are more coming, because I'll be watching.
Well, I appreciate it. No, I hope so too. I feel like even if no one watched, we would still be having a great time, kind of a deal. And it's been really exciting though to see like people also wanting to learn more and being able to participate. And there's friends of mine, because I don't talk to my friends too much about my tequila. Like I share tequila knowledge, but I'm like, hey, you see how many followers? I don't really sit there and talk about that sort of stuff. And so they've recently started joining more of my lives, and they're like, wait, this is like a real, like this is a real thing where you are talking to people about like tequila. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't just sit around at home and talk about it. And I think that, and they have now started to understand it a little bit more. And so even just seeing like their journey is giving me the reassurance that others are also having that journey as well. And I reply to every message. I like every message, period. So, so yeah, if there's anything, let me know, but I hope we keep going. I think it's going to be great. And I know that we are probably going to be like just doing this for a while and bringing on some better guests every year. Right. And honestly, especially even if we start to cycle through guests, I'm really excited about that too, because every year there's something new and something's different. So
yeah. Well, congratulations to you guys, and to you personally for your upcoming nuptials.
Yeah, the wedding, a house. This 2022 is the year of new beginnings.
Well, congratulations. And thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. Your stuff is in boxes everywhere. My stuff is still in boxes. There's usually booze. You better make sure your boxes are strong, because there's a lot of booze to carry.
I will say so my parents' tequila collection is about 3 times the size of mine, but I took about 4 or 5 boxes over to their house to store, and that was just what was in my closet of the first shelf. I haven't even gotten to like, so I actually am more worried about moving my tequila collection than I am about moving the rest.
That's what happened to me when I drove out from Texas to here in the middle of a pandemic. I got here at ground zero when LA turned ground zero for the pandemic. But when I drove my U-Haul, it was very little stuff of my own. Mostly was just boxes of tequila I was bringing, with me. So I know, I be careful, no breakage. Bless you and your fiance. Thank you for taking the time with me here.
Folks, thank you so much.
You've been watching and listening to Open Bar here on Tequila Aficionado and all of our channels and networks. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hey, subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a like because that helps us with the algorithm. Leave a comment. If you're watching her show, follow her too. Give everybody your handle again.
Yeah, it's at la and then punto period tequilana.
Yeah, and that's or TequiLadies. You can follow them
at the TequiLadies as well.
At the TequiLadies as well, and that's just Instagram. When you guys branch out again everywhere else, let me know. But you can follow us on Tequila Aficionado. You follow me personally, but don't bother. But whatever you do, sip wisely. Thank you, Ms. Olivo. I appreciate you taking the time. Take care. We'll be seeing you soon. Okay.
Definitely.
Bye.
I appreciate it. Bye.